Right, so here we are, podcast number 1. Few people have said to me, do you want to do a podcast? I figured it might be quite beneficial, to be honest, because I listen to podcasts myself. I'm a big fan of podcasts. I take so much value away from them. And it's just a great way of learning stuff now. And even if you don't necessarily learn a crazy life lesson in one sitting, you still can take something valuable away from it. I mean, what's your approach on podcasts? You listen to them much?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. On the move, when I'm out and about, makes sense. You're taking something in, and I love the fact that you can get your thoughts out there. How often do people have the chance to just actually listen or just talk? For most people, you're at the gym, you're having a jog or something. Yeah, it's great. I think it's a good way to get thoughts across and new ideas.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And it's quite funny because I obviously this is the first one that I've done, and I figured that this is going to be okay. It won't take long to set up. It'll take me 10 minutes, and I'll just put a few little bits together. And man, oh my God, it's been so crazy trying to get everything ready. All the audio, you don't see everything else that's going on behind the scenes, like what's over there. And it's been a little bit stressful, to be honest, I must admit. But, it's been worth it. I mean, I had to go out and get a microphone stand this morning last minute. Man. So, I really appreciate the people out there that are doing podcasts, because it does take a lot of work.
It's more than just two people chatting. There's a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah,
as I've found out since arriving today.
There's
a lot going on here.
Definitely. So, why am I doing this? Why am I decided to do a podcast? So, I figured that I put out a lot of information out there regarding what I'm trying to do is to help people live a healthy and happy life, and to be at their best performance, peak state, I like to call it. And I've done a couple of live videos on Facebook, and people were saying you should do a podcast. You should actually talk and get some guests on and chat about stuff. So it's one of those where like I said, me being a big fan of podcasts myself, I take a lot of value away from them. So why not give my value out there to other people to hear and
give something back? I mean, with the knowledge you've got, then I think it's a good idea.
Definitely. And what will people get from this is a question that I've had. And what people are going to take away from this is literally, like I just said, we're always here to learn. We're here to learn new things. We're here to improve ourselves. We're here to be the best version of ourselves. And even if yesterday wasn't as good as we thought it could be, then at least we can listen to information and gather these sources together that can help us be a little bit better than yesterday. Because that, in my opinion, is life's journey. And it's a massive learning curve that we're on, and we never stop learning in life. What it's about is learning the right things and utilizing them. And one thing that might not be the right thing for one person might be the right thing for you, and vice versa. So what people are going to get from this is some good information. I'd like to think they're going to get some good life hacks. They're going to build some knowledge on how to approach their life. It might give them some creative ideas. It might, spark that fire back inside of them, or they might just enjoy listening to it. I'm a huge fan of podcasts myself, and some podcasts I take a massive amount of value from. And some I just listen to it. I'm just like, that was cool. I really enjoyed that. While I was walking down the road, or while I was driving to this certain destination, instead of listening to music, put a podcast on.
It can put a little seed in your mind, can't it? Something that will grow in your head, give you a few ideas. There's always something new out there, new experience, something new you can learn from. So I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. So Neil Hodgkiss, first guest. You were the first person that I had to get on. I knew straight away I needed to get you on. There was no doubt about it. So, who are you? What do you do? What are you about?
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose I could start from the very beginning, where I know you from, which is fun. I think you were about, whether you were 2 or 3.
Young.
You were 2 or 3, yeah.
Very young.
You couldn't talk. You communicated in this sort of series of raspberries and so on. It was like that. But I knew you and your brother Jay straight over our back fence. So we lived close to each other, didn't we? We were just round the block, but our fence is connected. Opposite. Yeah. So I'd often see you. You'd be up on the climbing frame in your back garden, and you and Jay, I could talk. We'd started just talking. We'd swap WWF wrestling stickers and football stickers through the fence. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And often, I'm sure we'd find each other's footballs in each other's gardens and throw them back.
Yeah.
And then when we were old enough to actually go out and play, we'd go out and play. So, and it was a nice area, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
It was good.
Pendiford, you're on that sort of border of Wolverhampton,
Yeah.
South Staffordshire. You've got all that countryside as well. Once you're on your bikes, you're straight out into the countryside, and we had a lot of fun. So that's our sort of formative years, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were lucky to be in that area. I think
I think
we had
were.
so much. We could
Yeah.
walk over the road, and we got the woods there. And it's crazy because I can always still remember peeking over the fence, and it's one of those where there's only a small amount of memories we have from young ages and young
that's true,
childhoods,
yeah.
and the ones that we do remember, those are the important ones. So those are the ones that I'm glad that I've got that as a memory there.
Yeah, pretty special things, aren't they?
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
And you sometimes think, I wish I could go back to that era where
Yeah.
life was stress free.
Yeah.
The only stressful thing was being called in at sort of evening. I've got to go home now.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing about it. But yeah, it was good. It was a good childhood. And we've sort of known each other since then.
We have, yeah.
Yeah. Over many years, lots of mostly good things. I think. I can't mention too many negatives at all. From what we've gone through. So it's all positive. I suppose, me these days, I work as an occupational therapy assistant. So that's literally assessing people, looking at their needs, and improving their life. So seeing what problems they might have. And this isn't just disabled people, it could be people who may be slightly elderly and they're getting a few issues, but it's how can we improve your life? What can we do to help you out? And it's a good job. It's pretty fulfilling. You learn a lot through it, about conditions, about managing them. Aside from that, which is a full-time job, I do a lot outside of work. So there's things I do for the Campaign for Real Ale, which I really enjoy and take a lot from. Beer and alcohol is probably demonised a lot more than it should be, because in moderation, I think it's a very good thing. It's a positive, but it is all about moderation. So yeah, there's that side of things. And other than that, I run a couple of websites. I build websites, as you know. I've helped you out on that one.
Yeah.
One of which is Westwolf, a local one. Been involved in a few things. Me and another artist, Marie Sewell, painted one of the Wolves in Wolves, which is sitting in the Arena Theatre. If you want to go and see, it's there. So yeah, very varied life.
No,
sometimes stressful.
I think it's a very interesting life that you've got, and I think it's one of those where what I can see is you've got a very rewarding life. Being a therapist and going in and helping people in their homes. Get around, and sometimes it's one of those where you never see it in yourself. You never think. You just think, that's just what I do. Whereas somebody where I'm seeing that from the other perspective is that's really rewarding to be able to go home at night and say, do you know what? There's someone in their home right now that is in a better position than where they were before because of me, because of what I did. And I think it's, you've got a lot going on, and it's great to see that you've always been a very creative guy. You've always been a very, open-minded guy. You're expanding your mind and expanding your ideas and trying to do everything in your power that's necessary to be successful, and not be successful for a thing, a certificate, or a thing, a validation. What it's about is you saying, do you know what, this is my fulfillment, this is my purpose. Right, and you've got your website, you've got your passion for beer and ale, you've got your job, which is helping other people, and then obviously you've got your family
as well, which is a big thing. I mean,
you've got a very young daughter, haven't you? That's only just come into this world.
Just turned 3 now. Yeah, so and she's great fun. She keeps me busy, shall we say? Yeah, in between her and my wife Keely. Yeah, great. I love my home life. I really appreciate what they do, and I'm lucky enough as well. I'm sure we're going to talk about things like nutrition and looking after yourself, and I'm very lucky in that I've got a wife who is a really good cook.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
that's good.
That kind of helps, because let me in the kitchen and I'll have a go. But yeah, she's another level. So
You've got yourself a jackpot there, mate.
Yeah, I've got myself a jackpot there. Yeah.
Cool. So you you recently had a little bit of a health scare,
Yeah.
where you was a little bit of a shock to the system. You didn't really see it coming. Tell us a little bit about that, or what you feel comfortable talking about with that.
During work, I started getting nosebleeds. I thought, what is going on here? I've not really suffered with nosebleeds as a thing. Yeah, once or twice in my life. And you remembered one. You brought this up to me, didn't you?
Yeah.
When we were kids, and I ran up the stairs at your house, and suddenly my nose started bleeding. It's like, what's
it was
going
gushing.
on?
It was literally
and
gushing.
you mentioned it was a bit of a scary thing because you were only what? I know you were very young.
I remember it though. That was crazy.
You talk about the things you remember. Yes, these things that are a little out of the ordinary sometimes as well, aren't they? And for me, it was at the time because I hadn't had nosebleeds before that. Nothing really since one after a tooth extraction, but so these nosebleeds started. Thought, okay, I can't be at this house because it was a nice house, beautiful carpet. They'd asked me to take my shoes off, and my nose starts gushing. That's not good, is it? It's not a good situation. So off to the hospital that night. Hey, your blood pressure's pretty high. It's pretty high. Nosebleeds sort of stopped during the course of being at the hospital, but over that next week, nosebleeds were stopping and starting, and I ended up, cut a long story short, in hospital for 3 nights with them trying to control my blood pressure. The doctor, a couple of days before then, had put me on blood pressure medication, which, as it turns out, didn't suit me. Amlodipine didn't work out for me. Hospital put me on doxazosine, which brought it down, and the nosebleed stopped. I said various things, something called cauterization, where they'll literally seal the blood vessels off in your nose. It's not a massively pleasant process. Bringing the blood pressure under control, I haven't had a nosebleed since. Now, I say the blood pressure is under control. The doctor has since switched me to a different medication again. Right. But another idea is, you need to cut out some stresses in your life because you are doing too much. Now, me, I like to throw myself into stuff. Pretty similar to you, you're absolutely a busy guy. I'm this. I like to be busy. I enjoy it. I feel like I'm doing something. I've never been one for just sitting there watching television. Yeah. But as it turns out, there are rewarding factors for sitting there watching television. You've got to let your body recover sometimes.
Absolutely, and the one key thing that you mentioned there is, you can have all this medication, and it can work or it might not work, and it might change the chemistry in your body. It might change what's going on with the reactions in your body. But what it really comes down to is the way that you're dealing with the stress in your body, and this is the hormones that are released into your body. And you can either release good hormones or you can release the bad hormones. And this is where things like we want to be releasing more of that norepinephrine, we want to be releasing less of that cortisol in there, more of that dopamine that the body likes, but more of the good hormones that lets the body relax as well. Yeah. And this is where, I can really relate to what you've said, because, we are that kind of person where we like to go in, we like to give ourselves stress a little bit, don't we? A little bit, yeah. It's kind of like our own little kind of buzz.
You got that bit of adrenaline kicking in when you're a little stressed, and it's taking more on, and sometimes it's just not saying no because you think, actually, I like the sound of that. Yeah, I'll take that on as well. If you've got that much on already, there's a point where, and you might think I'm coping with this, I can do it, I'm managing it, I'm managing my time. But I suppose when you're working full time and you're getting in of an evening, and then you're pretty much almost working another full time job of an evening on top of having a family, it starts to build up, and you don't necessarily see it because you think I'm coping until something happens and you're in a mess.
It's almost like it's you're filling up a bottle, and it's just a matter of when that bottle's just going to explode. It's like shaking up a bottle of Pepsi or something, and it's like boom. Eventually, it's going to pop, and when that happens, that's when you get the reactions in your body. You get the pains, you get the nosebleeds, you get whatever, and this is where we all feel it in different ways. Some people feel it through emotions, some feel it through physical symptoms such as yourself. You get the high blood pressure, some people start to sweat. And I think it's really important to look out for these signs, because I think the body will give you some warning signals before it really does happen. And I'm guilty for this myself, where I would be like, oh, whatever, I'll just crack on. I'll just crack on with it. And it's really, really important to actually stop for a moment and listen to your body, and just, whatever you're doing, just stop it. Move the phone away from you, move the laptop away from you, take yourself into an area where you can just stop and breathe and listen to your body, because that shit can't lie. Like that's
Yeah.
real. That's real
You're
stuff
right.
there. And you can't Google that. You can't go on Google. And there's it's one of those where you have to pay attention to what's going on inside, because I've learned a lot in my journey that everything is the inside and then out. Whereas I used to think everything was the outside and then in.
Yes.
And the more I learn about holistic health, the more I learn about general health and fitness, and what I do, all of that kind of stuff. And it's now what you always look inside, and it's important to ask yourself, right, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling? How much tension do I feel right now in my body? And it might not even be a tension that is in like a muscle contraction tension. It might be a tension that's just there, and you can just feel it in a certain part of your body. And I've started doing yoga at the beginning of my yoga journey, and they talk a lot about this tension in the body. They talk a lot about breathing and feeling where there's tension in the body.
Because if you're not aware of it, it's not actually easy to recognize. I don't think it is. No. There were times I thought I was chilled out. Now I really am, and I feel chilled out. I can tell the difference. I'm not sitting here with squared, tense shoulders. I can tell the difference. I'm relaxed, whereas I wasn't before, and I thought I was. And the difference is amazing. I mean, my blood pressure's hereditary, as it turns out, as well. It's just all the extra things on top. We're just pushing it up further than it was anyway. So the chances are I would have probably been on meds anyway at some point, but I wasn't necessarily looking after my body. Stress, eating and drinking the wrong things. It's no good sitting in front of the telly for the last hour of a night after you've spent all that time working at work and working at home. An hour, let's pop open a big bag of crisps and the worst dip you can find, some cheesy dip, and sitting there stuffing your face because it feels good for that hour, thinking, that's my leisure time. That's not good for you.
And what you mentioned there is something which is a short-term pleasure. It's a short-term distraction, and I'm not going to talk about this in podcast because we'll be here for hours. And we've got other things we need to talk about that I really want to ask you about. But just on a quick topic, is that we as humans, we like to try and find distractions that try and make us feel better temporarily. Now, some of these things are good. Some of these things can be good, but generally, a lot of people choose the wrong things, which is actually detrimental to their health. And it's about understanding that we need to be aware of what are we doing, what are we distracting ourselves with. Is this a good distraction? Is this a bad distraction? Do I even need to be distracted, or is it just me using a bad habitual pattern that I've always done?
I think it's part
of that. You're actually just playing tricks on yourself. But we're not going to talk about that because we'll be here for
we
ages.
That's a full podcast on its own.
But in a nutshell, what has this health scare? What has it taught you? What was the main thing that you kind of learned from it? Would you say?
Number one, it's to be aware. It's to be aware of your body, and of course, if you've got a condition, don't ignore it. People don't like to think about these things. People don't like to visit the doctors for a start. I mean, we nobody really likes. It's like going to the dentist.
It's scary, isn't it?
It's nobody wants to think about this. It's like nobody wants to think about death. Nobody wants to think about things like that. You just want to think about the good things. So you put it to the back of your mind. So there were some indicators that my blood pressure was a little high. I'd be lying in bed. When you're lying in bed or relaxing or thinking you're relaxing, and you can with me at least, I can feel a little pulse in my neck. I can feel little muscle spasms, twitches. I'm thinking, come on, maybe something isn't right here. But you know what? I'll be all right. I've got this to do now. I'm okay. I can carry on. You feel like you're invincible sometimes, especially when you've got that buzz from doing new things and working away. There's always that buzz. Doing the local magazine for Campaign for Real Ale. I love it. There's such a buzz involved in doing it. But then there's these stressful times as well. There's looking for adverts because it's paid for by adverts. You've got to chase them. There's working to a deadline to get this whole thing done. Getting it to the guy who's doing the proofreading for you. All these little things. And you're thinking, it's fine. But now actually, in reality, these things are mounting up in your head. And I think one thing I've found is the worst thing is deadlines. Right. Because when you've got deadlines at work, you've got deadlines in voluntary work, deadlines you're just setting yourself as general.
Illusions in your head.
I'm going to get to the gym this many times. Right. And then if I don't, I should have gone today. Yeah. I should have done this.
I'm the master at that. Yeah. I'm the master at setting my own deadlines. That are just illusions. You're like, why am I setting myself this?
Yeah. But you're setting them. And really, it's because you want to push yourself on. Yeah. But you've got to be aware of your situation. And to be honest, I'd say I'd say 95 to 99% of people out there aren't. They're just carrying on, and they've got bad habits. They're doing the wrong things. They're surviving on their coffee, or they're surviving on their couple of drinks after work to chill them out. And that's, life is hectic these days. Yeah. Modern life in the Western world is difficult. We do work long hours, and that's without adding extra things on.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Life is. We've got so many other things to think about now that should help us. Really, you think about like things like technology, the phones. They're good. You can do things a lot quicker. You can do your shopping online. You've got social media. You can talk to your family in Australia as quick as you want. But it's an extra thing to think about. It's an extra stress. Yeah. What did people worry about years ago? Eating, drinking. Yeah.
Coming home, having a shelter,
being alive.
Yeah.
Stressful times. I'm pretty certain. Without all these extras that we don't really need.
Yeah. We have been conditioned very, very differently, like no other generation so far. And, it's like you said about the phones, it can be used in a very positive way, but it can be used in a very, very bad way. And I think we're both guilty of this. I think every single person on this planet has been guilty of using their phone in a way that does not serve them. And it's, you just your phone alone can create stress, and you're thinking like, hang on a minute, like why am I doing this to myself? Just put the phone away, switch it away. So you've had recently, I think, in regards to this health scare that you've had, and I think you wanted to go and do it. You've had a DNA test done, haven't you, recently?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I've wanted to do one for years anyway. I've always been keen on family tree and whatnot. I had a grandfather who was from Latvia. We don't know anything about his family, and my thought was, I want to find out. But also, I've got other relatives, English relatives, who I just don't know anything about. I know up to a point, grandparents, great grandparents, and so on, and that's it. I'll stop there. And I've just got this thirst and hunger for that knowledge, because especially now I've got a daughter. I want to be able to pass something on to her. Sure. I want to do this massive family tree, so stick it on the wall. These are your family, because it means something. At the end of the day, we're kind of, I know not everyone wants children, but we're kind of here to procreate and keep our line going. Yeah. It's what everybody does. It's what animals do. And I wanted to have a map of that almost. And of course, we can only go back so far. We can only go back so far by researching our family tree. But DNA will tell us a lot more. DNA will tell us really where our family comes from. And you can go right into the mist of time on this one. But of course, DNA, if you put it into the right apps, or you buy the right, I suppose it depends where you have your DNA tested, you can find out about your health as well. Whether you're at risk of certain conditions. Because DNA markers, everything can be picked out if you've got the right thing, the right tool to analyse it. Well, in my case, I went for the one which would tell me more about my family tree. But the great thing with these DNA tests is you get that raw data, and you can put that somewhere else. And there are all sorts of tools on the internet. So you can literally take that sort of DNA, and you can say, I'll upload it to this website. It might cost you a little bit, but there are health websites, and they might say, yeah, Neil, you're predisposed to high blood pressure.
See, I've been on a few websites, and I've had a look at these DNA things, and I've always kind of looked at it and thought, well, how do I know this is real? How do I know this is not just some scam, and it's just some company just trying to say, we'll give you your DNA results, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. And I'm just thinking like, how did you manage to choose this company that you could trust, and you could say, right, this is going to be, real. It's not going to be no dog shit or anything like that.
This is the one I've gone for. It's Ancestry DNA. It's one of the biggest. You've got a few big ones. I think the biggest probably are Ancestry, which started off as I think just a family tree website. That's the box that they sent me. Started off as a family tree website. And then they branched out into the DNA side, because it's the next step.
Right.
These are huge. I think they're an American company. Okay. There's also one called 23andMe, which is your chromosomes, essentially 23 chromosomes.
Okay.
They all do kind of the same thing with a few tweaks either way. I went for Ancestry because my initial thought was, you know what, I want to find out about my family.
Is it a urine test?
No.
Blood test? Is it where they give you a pricker?
It's saliva.
Oh, it's a saliva test.
So you get a tube.
Okay.
In here, right? You get a couple of things, but essentially you get a tube, and you sort of have to spit in it.
Of course.
You're spitting it up to a point.
Right.
You seal the top. when you push this thing down, it releases this liquid, which essentially freezes
Okay, yeah,
it
yeah,
in state.
yeah. So
Because
they
you've got
can
to post
check
this away.
it when it's sure.
Yeah, so you give it a good shake up,
Okay,
post it away.
yeah,
You put your code in on the website. There's a few things you do,
okay,
but it takes a few weeks for them to come back to you.
okay.
When they come back to you, this is to answer your question. How do you know it's real? For a start, you'll notice there's a few family names you know. There may be a few relatives you already know. So one of my dad's cousins was on there. A third cousin of mine who I know already is a third
So
cousin.
you know
was
this
on
is
there.
not,
And I thought,
this is real. Right? I've
Yeah.
seen some familiar names here.
it chucked up a
Yeah.
few Latvians on there,
Sure.
obviously
Yeah,
distantly related to my grandfather, though I've
Yeah.
not established a link yet.
Okay.
It's hard when you don't know the language. It's even thrown up a few hunts, you know.
Wow,
so
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
into my great grandmother's family.
Whoa.
So the Stanford side.
So we're related.
We could have the same.
be
We
related.
could potentially have the same great grandmother. So we might not be related by blood, but we
Wow.
could have the same grandmother who does almost tie us in.
Wow.
So there's another
So
reason
we
you've got to
are-
go
we
and
are
get this
bros
tested.
then. We're
We
officially
really
bros.
are,
We're
yeah.
officially bros. That's it.
right. So you got to, you know.
We're officially brothers now. We can
So,
say it.
I honestly think it really is worth doing because you will have so many surprises.
How much did this cost? How much did this
I
test
think
cost?
this was in a sale at the minute. I mean, we're in January. I got it in November,
Okay.
and there was a little discount on it. So for me, if I recall, don't quote me on it, but it was somewhere like £60.
Okay.
I think it's a little lower at the minute because there's a January thing on.
Yeah.
But what I'd say is
That's pretty good price.
It's
I
pretty
think.
good price
This,
for a
you know,
DNA test.
for what it is.
a few years back it was triple that. So the cost of these things are coming down. But yes, it's genuine.
Yeah, sure.
Now what people tend to say is, well, what about the ethnicity test side of it? Is that genuine? Because one website will tell you that you're, 85% English and 10% this and 5%. And another one will tell you you're 92% English and so on. It does vary. What I took my data from Ancestry, exported the raw DNA, put it into a website called GEDmatch, which broke it down, and it was pretty similar, to be honest.
Okay.
There were some slight differences. GEDmatch actually really broke it down into little percentages, which was really interesting.
Okay.
Because I had the big main core things, the English, the Latvian, and then there was a few others, a few little chunks, which I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. I'd say it's well worth doing because you'll just find out so much. And then, of course, there's that wonderful health side of it as well.
Of course, yeah.
So,
I think if I was to do this, I would really want to understand what, with my DNA, my genetics, what am I going to be more at higher risk of, of getting. And, I'm openly happy to talk about this because, I've already accepted the fact that there's a good chance that I might get cancer because obviously my mother had cancer. So at a young age as well. So, and it would be interesting to just be aware of those things and to just kind of, obviously we can't change our DNA, we can't change our genetics, but just to be more informed about what kind of machine, what kind of animal we are, what our chances are. I mean, chances are chances. You can't. There's so many different things that we do in our day-to-day lifestyle. And they say that there's billions and trillions and zillions of cells in our body that are always developing and always dying. And it's a crazy thing. The human body is. It's a crazy thing. And I think that it's fantastic to have that. And
I mean, we're living we're lucky. We're living in good times.
Yeah.
Nobody could do this in the past. At least you can have an idea what you're predisposed to, and you couldn't before. As you say, whether you can change it, the very healthiest people get cancer.
Of course, absolutely.
There are people who live their life like a saint. They don't touch alcohol. Never took a drug.
My nan was the healthiest person you would ever meet. Boom, bowel cancer.
Yeah,
passed away, unfortunately. So, and I think it's always this fight that we've got because it's like, yes, we want to try and be healthy, and we want to try and be the best version of ourselves and make our body, our machine, the best thing it can be. But sometimes we just don't know what's going to happen. And
we don't know.
And I'm trying to give this. I'm trying to really live my life now as if it's kind of like if today was your last day kind of approach, and some people might think this is, that's quite a negative way to think, but really you've got to have that balance there. You've got to understand that.
We're all going to die.
Yes.
And I've seen your transformation over the last few years. I've seen the difference going from where you were to where you are now as a friend. you can very much see that you're a much healthier person. Your mindset is scales above where it was before.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's good, and it's something to aspire to. I'm sure everybody, and it does depend on your personal circumstances as well, because some people might be trapped in a cycle of whatever it is, and it's negative, and they can't get out of it. That might not be in their control. Work, family life, who knows what's going on. But I think if you can, doing what you're doing, people out there can say, okay, yeah, Craig is a positive example. Let's look at what he's doing. Let's take note of what he's doing. Let's approach him and say, look, what can I do to improve my lot in life?
That's what it's all about.
Mate.
That is literally what you've just said there. And what you've just said there, it all just keeps going back towards these lifestyle changes that you mentioned about yourself, about understanding stress, understanding these things that are causing our body to react in a certain way. And thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
No,
what you
just
good. Said. And
it's really good seeing these positive changes, because it's sort of, I'm then looking at myself, and I'm speaking to Keely at home, and I must drive a mad and say, I need to sort my fitness out. I really do, because it's affecting me, and I've got to stop taking on so many things.
Sure. Yeah.
So seeing the way you're working things, is good, and it's going to be good for anybody out there, because there are people with that sort of mindset that you've got about looking after yourself, and it does work.
We can always learn things from other people, and it doesn't. People think there's this game of life. What level are you on? There's no level. You're always going to be able to learn something from someone else. I guarantee there's always going to be someone on this planet that has gone through something that you haven't, and that you can learn from and take some value from. And that's the journey of life. Like we spoke about at the beginning, was learning, developing, growing, taking value and putting it into your own case scenario, but then also giving it to other people. So I'm a strong believer that the energy that you take in will be the energy that you give out. And I've noticed this in my earlier 20s. I wasn't a very healthy guy. I wasn't a very positive guy. I was taking in bad energy, and naturally I was giving out bad energy. And then, again, the energy that you give out naturally is the energy you will receive.
Yeah.
And I actually did a little test on this. I purposely, this was tough because this is a new way of my living, but I purposely gave out a bad vibe, a bad energy for a whole day. And man, when I got home at night and I went to bed, I was like, I hate myself. This sucks.
I've just got a picture of you going around being really shitty to people.
It wasn't
shutting
that
doors
bad.
in people's faces.
It wasn't that bad. It was just not saying thank you and just being in my own little bubble. And it is so true, because the next day I got up and went back to my normal self of really, giving that vibe out. And there's the law of attraction. I'm not going to talk about that today, but again, the law of attraction is something that I didn't used to believe in. Now it's something that I wake up in the morning and I say, right, this law of attraction stuff is real. It is real, and I've tested it on myself. And you're only going to know unless you test it on yourself. So obviously, it's the beginning of 2020, isn't it? And
a new decade here.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah, time flies. And I've seen a lot of people out there talking about setting goals and setting, doing all these things. I'm going to do this in the new year. I'm going to do that in the new year. And one thing that I saw a lot of was people putting a lot of pressure on themselves, and they've got 10 or 20, loads of different things. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And what I've learned is that setting goals is already just something called a goal. It's a goal. There's pressure there already. And like you said about the stress,
you're setting a deadline, aren't you?
You're setting that illusional deadline in your head. And, just what I learned a lot of is that if you take the word goal and turn it into intention, automatically that pressure, that deadline, that resistance just disintegrates. And it's like, well, it's an intention. It's what I want to intend to do. But if I don't manage to do it, it's not the end of the world. And you actually find, and I this is something I trialed myself. I started setting myself intentions instead of goals. And it was like, right, I'm actually performing better now at what I said I was intended to do. Because when it was a goal, it was quite tough. And again, I see so many people setting so many different things in all these different areas of their life. And what I found as well is simplicity is key. If you look at the big picture and you set yourself the right intention, whether it's just 1 or 2, a very small number, if it's the right intention, everything else will naturally fall into place.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you gone about your goal or maybe intention setting for this year? What's your kind of approach on it?
Well, I suppose because of all the stuff with the blood pressure just before Christmas, it literally is to actually take my foot off the gas a little bit,
Yeah.
and to enjoy life and to
Mm.
appreciate the little things, to spend more time with my daughter. I mean, 3-year-old, they're going to change massively, so I'm just giving that extra bit of time to her,
Sure.
relaxing of an evening,
Sure.
little bits like that. Not pushing myself as much. I know, for most people, they're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to do this." I suppose if we could see the percentages of people that actually don't, they set themselves goals at maybe New Year, all these resolutions and whatnot, yet don't fulfill them. Come on, I mean, how many people? Most of them are, I'm going to lose weight. Yeah, I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to meet someone this year. Come on, are you really going to do those things at all? Yeah. So for me, it's actually the opposite. I'm going to enjoy life. I'm still going to do what I want to do. There's no deadlines to what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
I'm working. I've got my job. I've got my family, and all of the other things I'm going to do without deadlines. I'm just going to be as good a person as I can, I think, because as you said, how you are comes back to you. I'm pretty certain of that.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely, absolutely.
My aim is just to be a good person, to do good things, but just without those deadlines.
Yeah. I think sometimes you have to take a step back, and it's only until you realise that maybe you are taking on a little bit too much. And sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture and say, right, what is the most important thing to me right now? It doesn't have to be something to do with your career. You really have to have that conversation with yourself, and nobody else can answer that question for you. And what I found with my journey is that I started doing disconnect days.
Yeah.
And this was weird because it was so unplanned. And it was the first disconnect day I ever did was the 1st of January, 2019, right? So it was about a year ago, right? And it wasn't even planned. I mean, I had a quiet New Year's Eve. I didn't go out, I was in bed by like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I just got up the next day and I thought, do you know what? I want to go and climb the Wrekin, which is a local kind of hill.
A landmark, isn't it?
Yeah, around the Shropshire area. And I just thought, I'm not going to switch my phone on today. And I'm just going to go up the Wrekin. I'm going to walk up the top, listen to some chilled out music, and I'm just going to go to the top and think. And honestly, that was one of the most productive days I've ever had in my life. And all I did was think.
So you've eliminated distractions.
Exactly that. And I connected myself towards more of the earth, which is nature, and disconnected more of myself away from this technology. I mean, obviously there was a few people walking around the weekend. You're never going to be able to completely isolate yourself.
Be on your own.
It is a thing. It is a thing. There's people out there that go on these serious retreats and they just live in in their own box for like a week. It's crazy. I would love to try it. But just being away from technology, being away from any of those distractions, and just going inside and thinking about these things, all of a sudden you can think, and you can think well, and you can start kind of organising it all in your head. What I found was that I needed to have a piece of paper and a pen with me, because even though things were getting organised up here, I needed to get it down onto paper.
I get that
because I have understood so much in my journey that if you don't get the ink to paper, it's not real. It's there, it's real for that moment in time, but it could be gone and it could never come back. And this is why you always hear about the people that are at the happiest and the most successful, and they're really living in a fulfilled life. They all write stuff down. And it doesn't even matter if they look at it again, because they write it down. It kind of just sets a realism to it.
Are you like me in that your sort of ideas will come to you at the worst times?
Yes.
So it can be like you're in bed.
Absolutely.
I'm terrible for that one. I'll either not manage to get to sleep because my head's buzzing with ideas, or I'll wake up in the night, and that's often the worst. I don't want to disturb anyone. I'm awake in the night. I've got all these really good ideas. Could be anything. I'm thinking, you know what? If I get to sleep, that's gone. I've got to write this down.
Yeah, sure.
So you've got to get up and write it down. But I mean, as far as you talk about your disconnect days, I mean, do you find it difficult? Because we are, modern life, the way we are so connected.
Yeah.
Everything is connected these days. Just completely cutting off from that. Is that difficult for you? Or are you almost craving that? I need to put my phone on and check what my messages are.
At first, it was quite difficult. It was quite weird. But then what I found was about halfway through the day, you kind of just forget. And you actually realise that when we were kids, we didn't have this.
We didn't know.
And it's like,
No.
you've got this in you anyway the whole time.
Yeah.
And it actually felt good. I mean, like you said about being connected, there's positive ways of being connected, and there's negative ways of being disconnected. But, you know, I was actually okay. And because I think what would happen was, because the phone was off, and it wasn't like the internet was switched off on the phone was off. Man, it was. I was almost going to leave it at home, but I thought I'm going to take it with me just in case. You know, you never know what's going to happen, just so I can switch it on in an emergency. But you know, it was one of those where it's because you're so productive on that day anyway, and I had my day laid out, and I was all of these things that I was thinking of, I was writing down, and then what I was doing was working on that thing. So I was looking at it, understanding what it is. Is this an intention for me or not? Is this something that I need to approach differently? You're occupied anyway. So you actually kind of forget that you've even got your phone on you. And it's kind of like, right, now this is me day. This is my day. And some people might say, oh, it's selfish. Oh, you know, that's why would you want to cut yourself away from? But we have to, it's us. This is our life. It's no one else's. And it's about that improvement, and it's about understanding what's not gone well and what has gone well and what you need to improve. And it's kind of like saying, right, this area here right now, it's on my thoughts right now, and you're kind of giving it, it's like having a meeting with yourself. You're having a day meeting with yourself. So when you're working in a business or a company, you have a meeting with your team, and you know, it's like if you talk about what's gone well, what could we do that's improving well, you know, you're all having a discussion. Well, this is a meeting with yourself, right? And this is the most important meeting you can have ever at any point in your life, because life's always going to change. You can't control what's going to happen, and some things are not going to happen the way you want them to. So, and it's one of those where it keeps you really in line. And I break this down into 10 areas of my life. So I'm not going to mention them all, but you know, some of them is like physically. So what is my physical body like? Some of them is mentally. What is my mental state like? What is my mind state like? You know, finances. What are my finances like? You know, have my finances gone up? Have they gone down? What is my career like? You know, what is my business like? And if you start breaking them down into all of these areas, all of a sudden you've got a busy day ahead. We've got a good productive day ahead. And the way I use that is, think about. You know, and I start taking like a little notepad in my side pocket. So and the cool thing is when you're in nature and you're away from all of that, it's just something about it. Like I can just think. When you're in the city, when you're surrounded by people, all of a sudden you think, and then somebody distracts you. You think, and then somebody distracts you, and then you're like, oh, what was I thinking about a minute ago? Whereas when you're in nature, you can just kind of just go into your own state, and the quality of your thinking, the quality of your own assessments in your own head, your own judgments and your own organising things, it just goes from here to here.
I mean, you mentioned, you know, when you're in the city, when you're in the countryside, I mean, what we live in these days is completely unnatural for us. We've spent, you know, hundreds of thousands of years developing as humans in nature. And yet suddenly, in the last 100 years, we're in towns, we're in cities, we're in urban environments. Some of these places haven't got trees. You know, you'll be lucky if you see a bird other than a pigeon. You know, and as you say, you've got all these advertisements. You've got this, you've got that distraction. There's this, there's that, there's bright colours. Bang, buy, do this, do that. You know, taking your mind away, and you don't, and then your phone's going off in your pocket, and you do not get the chance to think. It isn't there. And I agree completely. I mean, I've always been one for walking. And I haven't done as much of that in recent years because I've just had so much else on. But that's something I'm getting back to now. Getting out into nature. It's one thing being in the gym to keep fit as well. But getting out into nature and actually walking along a stream, you know, going up a hill or a mountain.
There's something different about it. There is something different about running on a treadmill, walking on a treadmill to running outside. There's just something different about it. And it's that fresh air. It's that, you know, some people might see it as cheesy or whatever, but you know, there is a difference when you do a run or do a walk inside compared to doing a run or a run outside.
I think there are studies. I looked in it for my one website. I looked into this, and there are benefits for your mental health being out in nature. Massively, you know, massively more than being in a gym. Now, a gym, it is good for your body, of course it is. And there are things you can do in a gym that you can't necessarily do out and about unless you start lifting boulders and stuff, you know, instead of weights. But yeah, being outside, being in nature, and it must, in my opinion, go back to the way we have interacted as people. We have interacted with nature through millennia, you know, as people have developed. Of course, we go back so far. We were all hunters and gatherers.
Mm.
You know, farming came in and so on. You know, you can go right back, but we were always outside.
Yeah.
You know, in trees, in fields, on hillsides. You know, that's gone pretty much.
And the way that we live now today is we're all inside or inside in the
Yeah.
walls. We're connected to these devices, and it's not in our natural chemistry. You know, we're
No.
animals at the end of the day. We're
We are,
mammals, and we're supposed to be out there, you know, connected with nature. I mean, like the monkeys, they're flying in trees. You know, they're running around, and that's what we are. We're supposed to be that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
and I think that's what you said about it's a proven study that when we do connect ourselves to where we evolved from, you know, where we evolved from the cavemen and all these, you know, it's like this is what we're supposed to be like.
Yeah, this is what our bodies are built for.
Yeah, but
because you know what, technology is moving at such a pace, and the way we live is moving at such a pace. Our genetics aren't evolving. Genetics evolve very slowly. We're still hunter gatherers. That's what we're built for.
Yeah, sure.
You know, of course, we can design things like keyboards to work around us and so on, but we're not built for that. Really, we're not built to sit in front of a screen with blue light pounding us in the eyes, you know, and indoors not getting natural sunlight. But that's the way a lot of people live, you know. You look at a lot of these kids. They don't. We used to play football and stuff as kids.
Yeah.
Ride bikes.
Yeah.
Now they're just playing computer games.
Yeah.
What did we have when we were kids? We had the early the Super Nintendo, the Mega Drives.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Yeah, you'd play for a bit.
N64.
Yeah, the
that
N64.
Was a good one. That was a good one.
You know, the first PlayStation, the Sega Saturn. You'd play it for a bit, but you know what? They weren't completely immersive like a lot of the games now. I mean, you've got VR now. You're in a box. You're living in a box. It's great. It's amazing. But you know what? Things are at such a point that people don't need to leave the house anymore.
It all comes back down towards that balance, like you said about your recent health scare and you know, living a healthy life. It's about balance. It doesn't matter. You know, we're not saying you can't go and have, you know, a good game of COD or FIFA on the Xbox. You know, you can't go and watch a Netflix show or whatever. But it's about balance and understanding that, you know, in moderation. It's all in moderation. You know, when you mentioned the Super Nintendo, I was getting pumped up then. I was like, I remember that. But then it was like, but we didn't spend that long on it, really.
No,
before we knew it, we were out, we were playing football in the street, you know. And
it was more, it was usually when the weather was bad, we'd play the computer games, wasn't it? Because you couldn't go out.
That's it.
You know,
it didn't stop me sometimes. I'd go into the back garden anyway. And
you'd do it anyway. Yeah, I mean, I remember we played football in snow on a couple of occasions in the street and on the field.
I used to love that.
It's great. Get the orange ball out.
Yeah.
You know, have a kick about in the snow. Sliding tackles.
You don't see that anymore. Yeah, you don't see that in the streets. We used to play. There was a game called Kirby. Do you remember it?
Kirby,
and one person would stand on the one side of the road and the other person standing up, and you had to throw the ball and it had to hit the curb and bounce back at you.
Yeah, that's it.
I have not seen that game being played in centuries.
I don't think people let their kids out now. You know that? I mean, I know the world is a dangerous place as well. I kind of understand that. And again, we were lucky where we lived because it was pretty sheltered, wasn't it? There was cul-de-sacs, you know. If you don't know what a cul-de-sac is, you know, I'm sure people who might be listening think, what's a cul-de-sac if you're in another country? A cul-de-sac. Like it literally, I think it's a French word. It means like the end of a bag. Yeah. Essentially, you know, you were in a safe location.
Sure.
No traffic really running through, like where I used to live, and where you lived, it was still pretty quiet, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You get the odd car coming through, but you felt safe.
Yeah.
And everywhere you went, there was a house with friends' parents anyway.
That was it. Yeah.
So you knew that you were safe. And even when we pushed out into the field, there was enough of us that we'd be safe. We were a big group of us, and you know, we were. I think we were pretty respectful of other people.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. But we were kids. You know.
We were kids. You know?
Got to have a bit of fun in you sometimes.
Yeah, and we did. So, yeah.
We won't mention some of the stories on the podcast just in case.
No, we better not. But most of it was good.
We all make mistakes in life. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, it's about learning.
It's about learning.
It's all about the journey.
It's about the journey. It's about moderation and balance. So.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, man. Oh, I think... you know, it's great to have you on, man. I think it's been. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours, and I just hope that anybody who's watched this has taken some value away from it. And you know, if anybody,
this is like what we do anyway, isn't it?
This is it. Yeah, we would sit in a coffee shop anyway and chat like this. So, but. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. I think, you know, I will have you on a lot more in the future.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of topics. I mean, I didn't even cover half the topics that I wanted to anyway, but it's just about time more than anything. Yeah. Where can people find you on social media, you know, if they want to kind of get in touch with you and have a chat with you about whatever you do?
Okay, right. I mean, you know, I'm on Facebook, Neil Hodgkiss. I'm on Ancestry. Stick my name in if you think you're long lost family member.
Related. You never know.
No, but yeah. Other than that, there's Westwolf. It's www.westwolf. Wolf is spelt with a U, the old English way, so WULF, like Wolfrunian, where Wolfram comes from. If you're from Wolverhampton, you kind of hear about that. But westwolf.co.uk, which is a bit of a blog about Wolverhampton, about events, about news. I love this city. I don't get people who put a place down. You live in there. It's you've got to make it better.
Sure.
Nobody else is going to do it, are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So at westwolf.co.uk is probably the best, most straightforward way to contact me. I'm on Facebook as Westwolf. I'm on Twitter as Westwolf.
Instagram as well.
I'm on Instagram as myself, but of course then there's the Wolverhampton campaign for Real Ale. So if you like your beer and you want to save pubs, join Camera. It's a great thing to do. You pay in, you get so many benefits from it. There are trips.
How is that spelled? Camera? Is that
Camera? CAMRA. Yeah.
CAMRA.
Campaign for Real Ale. Yeah. Join your local group. If you're in the UK, there will be a local Camera group, almost certainly. Join it, get involved. There's so much you can do. I'd say from magazine editing. There are various roles. There's cider officer. There's like a young person's officer, membership officer. You've got your chairman, your vice chairman, your secretary. Brewery liaison officers or BLOs. You're the guy or woman who's in touch with the brewery.
Right.
So you're getting that news and you're putting it out there.
Oh wow.
There's so many cool roles. But if you like, say, beer, cider, and you want to save pubs, an institution in this country. We've had pubs since before people could write.
That's awesome.
In one form or another.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something else that's out there. So I'd say look that up. But yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
It's
Yeah.
all
A lot of
good
places
stuff.
a lot of things to look into then for yourself. So get in touch.
Yeah.
I'm Craig Hunt Coaching on Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, as well, LinkedIn. If anyone wants to find me on Facebook, again, it's Craig Hunt PT. If anyone wants to have a chat about some of the things we've covered today, if you want to learn a little bit more about life, how to look after yourself, how to be the best version of yourself, and how to just enjoy it more than anything, then that's where you can find me. So going to close it off now. Anybody that's watched, like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully we'll have some more podcasts coming soon. If there's any requests that anybody want, any kind of topics that we want to cover, then please do let us know, because we'll definitely get that on. All right, please. Cheers, man. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, cheers.
See you soon.
It's been good. Thank you.